I pulled the trigger. And now we continue with the conclusion, part 7 of the 7-part series, My Little Sister Disappeared 3 years ago. No one remembers her except me.
Finding yourself in the talons of an owl and the shadows of the forest moonlight. It's a gruesome affair.
Hi there, it's Kieran. I know many of you were asking for a follow-up as to what happened to me, Zoe, and my parents after all of this took place. As promised, I will share what happened with all of you. If any of you are seeing my story for the first time, feel free to look at my previous updates and see what events took place. After I finished things with Nick, all 3 of us went back to our stolen car without saying a word. Zoe was still petrified, so I didn't let go of her, and she didn't let go of me. It's most likely going to stay that way for a while longer. I asked Noah to drive us back, and he agreed even though he knew just as much about driving as I did. We arrived at my house, and I knew I had to explain to Zoe what might happen once we walk in. We got out of the car, and I clutched Zoe's hand. I need you to be brave, Zoe. I know it's going to be hard, but Mom and Dad haven't been able to remember you until now. Bad people did bad things to them, just like what they tried to do to you. Zoe nodded with tears in her eyes, and she squeezed my hand even tighter. The 3 of us walked towards my house, and with no hesitation this time, I quietly opened the door. At first, I didn't see our parents, so we walked in further. It wasn't until I reached the doorway to the living room that we saw them, sitting at our dinner table we used to sit at all together. I looked at Zoe, and I could tell by the look on her face, she was just as terrified of her parents not remembering her as I was. They looked at me in complete silence, then to Zoe. After what seemed like forever of looking at Zoe, I noticed that they were crying. When they noticed their tears, they didn't seem to understand why they were coming. This was when the screaming started, just like with me and Noah. I didn't hesitate to pull Zoe to my chest. I didn't want her to see this. It's okay, this is a good thing. It's just going to take a while for them to stop hurting. They're remembering you, Zoe. We'll be a family again, I promise. I felt her tears soak my shirt. I couldn't do anything but hold her until this was over. When their screaming and agony were done, and they came back to reality, there was a lot of crying from all of us. I heard countless apologies from my parents, but I didn't exactly want to hear them. I knew it wasn't their fault that they didn't remember her, and it wasn't like I was innocent either, back when I was threatening them. My parents knew better than to ask Zoe what happened to her as soon as she returned. Our reunion was nowhere near normal, and I wasn't expecting it to be. My parents forgot about Zoe for 3 years against their will, but nonetheless, I was extremely happy to be together, and I knew that things would eventually get better, even if they may never be normal again. Nothing else mattered now that I successfully got my sister back after 3 years, but I knew that Zoe was going to need a lot of mental treatment, and so was I. I know that she isn't going to be able to cling to me for the rest of her life, and she'll have to get over that someday, and so will I. The truth is, I never want to let her out of my sight again. The anxiety I have of someone taking her again is unbearable. After a few hours, I sent Noah home back to his family because I knew that they would want to see him again. When night came along, our whole family was exhausted. Zoe, do you want to sleep with Mom and Dad in their bed until we get another room set up for you? As I expected, she kept clinging to my arm. She refused. Mom and Dad smiled at us with their eyes still red from crying for hours. That night, I refused to sleep a wink until I was sure that Zoe was sleeping. Once I heard her breathing steadily, I let myself succumb to a deep sleep. I dreamt. I was in a pitch black room on a cold chair. I couldn't see anything until a very dim light lit up the steel table that was in front of me. It looked like a table you would see in an interrogation room. I noticed someone sitting across from me. It was still too dark for me to make any distinction on what their face looked like. By the physical features, I could tell it was a man, but it was just a shadow. It spoke.
Wow, they've really made you into one hell of an efficient hunter.
I knew that came from the figure, but it was like it was speaking directly into my head. "What are you talking about?" It laughed.
What do you mean? You already know exactly what I'm talking about.
The figure continued.
Don't you see anything wrong here? I know you do. You're smart. Think about it. In school, you were nothing but a pushover who barely passed classes. Now you solve the case of your missing sister after not even a week of finding the first piece of evidence she existed.
I love my sister. Of course I would try to find her. My grades have nothing to do with it.
So you outsmarted an ex-CIA agent and killed him without hesitation, like you've killed hundreds of people before. So answer me this. Was Nick Sparks too stupid, or were you too smart?
I didn't do that all on my own. I had Zoe telling me where to go.
The figure laughed hysterically. Don't play dumb. You know damn well that wasn't Zoe. It was you all along, and don't try to hide it. I know you saw your file, but I saw you ignore it time and time again when you were searching through them.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You realize that you can't lie to me, right? But it doesn't matter. The CIA screwed up when it came to dealing with you. When you're working, you still have a personal motive. That wasn't supposed to happen. You were supposed to kill that bastard Sparks and leave your sister behind, but it didn't work. You hunted him for the sole purpose of your sister, not because the CIA ordered you to kill that psycho because he betrayed them.
Who the fuck are you, and what do you want with me?
Haven't you noticed by now? I'm you. That's why you can't possibly lie to me. You've always known all along what the CIA was doing with you, but you ignored it. This isn't going to end here, and you know that.
That doesn't matter. I'll continue protecting my sister and the rest of my family as I always have. I'm not going to listen to any orders.
The figure laughed again. Wow, a rogue CIA experiment. I kind of like the sound of that.
The light above the table flickered brightly, and for a split second, I saw myself sitting across from me, smiling a twisted smile. I woke up sweating. I sat up quickly and I desperately looked for Zoe. I let out a sigh of relief as she was still lying next to me, sleeping. I went to my bag and I took out the files. I went to my living room and started my fireplace, and I desperately threw the files into the threatening flames. I saw the one file that I always tried to ignore as it was starting to burn into flames. Top secret, Project MK Ultra, Project Hunter, subject, Kieran Callister. To my forest friends, thank you for listening to another tale. I hope you enjoy these horrible stories as much as I do. If so, please rip at the like button and scratch a comment. And be sure to subscribe so we can visit here on the Smoking Owl Tales channel next time. And catch you on another night very soon.